Sometimes I feel like just reviewing a movie, and as I do it, as I write the script for the video, sometimes it kind of evolves. And this video is one of those instances in which it kind of evolved into its own thing. And so I'm releasing this not as a review, but as an essay, sort of. Uh, but it's, you know, it's not a review. Uh, Shut up. Also, major fucking spoiler warning. I guess we need to start with what these movies are about. The franchise is to see a bit more like its own universe, in which every movie is its own story within that universe. The format for the movies is a twist on the found footage genre, as this is indeed personal cameras, but in this franchise we only see the main protagonist's screen and their buddies in video chat with them, as all events in this franchise take place on their computers. Except for death. Death is still real. Essentially, what we're dealing with here is not a too bad of a twist of a found footage movie. I kind of like the idea. I kind of like the idea of bringing in modern technology like they do. What they do wrong is basically that they squander it by using classical found footage movie tropes, which they don't need to use. Actually, it's they don't really do anything for the franchise. It's like that they looked on Blair Witch and then decided that yeah, that shit was good in the 90s, so let's do that. More glitchy cameras, why not? And I think that is a wasted opportunity of a movie, basically. I think they kind of maybe should have thought of new things here, because the concept of the movie is good. I like it. I really do. But credit is where credit is due, after all, and I, for one, can say that I really appreciate the job the creators went through to make sure that it somewhat felt believable as actual real world computers. All the social media you see in the movie, which is primarily a fake Facebook, look really well done, and you don't really think that anything of it is odd. This also goes for the Skype replica they are using for the alleged video chats and even the chat discourse in the group, but it's also very obvious that a boomer wrote this and thought something along the lines of this is how the kids talk nowadays. And I think it's more obvious in the first Unfriended, and now that we have gone through most aspects of this franchise, let's talk about the movies themselves. So, why don't we start with Unfriended? So the first Unfriended is about a group of teenagers that goes to a school which has had a tragic event happen about a girl committing suicide. The suicide happened because she was drunk at a party and she shot herself, and then that video become viral. You know, nothing more dangerous than viral stuff. And speaking in Corona. Yeah, whatever. And basically, that causes her to suicide. What happens is that these groups are apparently talking a lot on Skype, and so when they do that, they get an account into their call without an invite that it has the name Laura Barnes, which is the girl that committed suicide. So someone is pretending to be the victim of the suicide and talking to these people, and that is weird. Is the is this a computer ghost? To speed it up a little bit, this is obviously not a normal user, and it eventually challenged them to a game of truth, in which case they are lying or trying to avoid the question. The cyber ghost will force them to commit suicide in various ways. Some really stupid ways, like putting your hand into a blender. Either way, it is rather charming and harmless, because whenever this happens, the screen kind of glitches out and everything goes laggy, which makes it hard to see what happened on the screen. Which brings me back to my first point, that they didn't actually need to use the tropes of found footage, because it kind of ruins the movie. or ruins it for me at least. I enjoy the gore. I want to see the blender scene for real, not in 3 FPS. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not against the concept. As a matter of fact, I think it's that horror needs to invite new concepts into it, especially when it comes to modern technology, because we are surrounded by it at all times, and it can be scary with technology and internet and stuff like that if you just use it properly, which most movies using it are not. Uh, it, but it is, in essence, it is clever and relatable. And I think that horror movies have always had a problem with technology because as soon as someone is in danger, you have signaling failing, um, well, phones overall not working, or the internet is cut out. Instead of doing that, utilize these things like make internet the scary thing, make the phone itself the scary thing, which just happens to be a plot of a Japanese horror movie series. Do that instead of just brushing it aside, because we're not gonna go back to the classical 70s era where these things didn't exist. So you need to incorporate them in any way. And to be fair to this franchise, it tries to do that. Usually, when it comes to settings for indie movies, there are massive potential, but for whatever reason, it usually almost hits home, but doesn't quite reach where it needs to go to become really good. And this is pretty common, especially within the horror genre, as the indie scene is so massive. A lot of things is tried, and I really, really, really appreciate that. And I don't mind to see a bad horror movie, but sometimes it hurts when you see actual potential for what could have been, and you know that no one more suited for the project would try something like it again. And as for scary movies with modern technology in it, there is a huge potential, but it's almost always disappointing. And in this particular case, I'm gonna blame boomerism. Another glaring problem with these movies are also that there are not a single really likable character, so you don't really give a damn about their deaths. You kind of just want them to suffer more. Now that we have gone through the entire concept of both movies, we should talk about the second movie a little bit more, and it's a rather weird plot. So, if you're not familiar with what the dark web is, it's basically a web under the surface of what you see when you browse your Google Chrome or your Firefox. Basically, the dark web is used mainly to store databases and security things for companies, but it's also possible for criminals and stuff like that to use it to spread either child pornography or maybe sell drugs or weapons and stuff like that. So it's an entire other layer of the internet that you usually don't have access to because you need special software to get there. I'm not going to teach you how. Figure it out yourself. Uh, so that is the concept of it, and the movie kind of hinges onto that, but maybe misunderstands it a bit. I don't know. It's as usual when it comes to things like this. It's portrayed a little bit weird because when it comes to reality, the dark web is not really that weird. It's just it's just there. It can be weird. It can be used for weird things, but it's not this weird place because the main use of it is actually legal. In what appears to be a triad making the internet scary by portraying it as how it is in real life rather than using ghosts, dark web kind of fails miserably. Its portrayal of the dark web is weird to say at least, but they third the plot even more far off the edge and it kind of borders on fantastical. The movie starts off with a guy, our protagonist, apparently finds a laptop at the library and takes it home and immediately starts to Skype with his friends to talk about this laptop. This laptop is not an ordinary laptop, and he realizes soon that the laptop is a key component in some criminal mastermind's plan to commit various crimes with, and he soon puts his friend in jeopardy by not returning it to its original owner. Well, sort of. Actually, the laptop is part of a larger scheme to blame some of the crimes on the friends or kids, whatever you want to call them, namely kidnappings and murders. And in the end, the group never really had a chance to do anything about it. They were gonna die anyway, since the main friend picked up the laptop, so they were chosen to do it. It's a twist ending that kind of makes sense in a way. But it's kind of far fetched. What if an old dude just picked up the laptop? We're gonna carry it through anyways. Like maybe he doesn't Skype. We're just gonna kill him. I don't know. But anyways, through the movie, they are planting evidence constantly into these kids. Laptops and other stuff, like they throw in money into a bank account to make it look like that kid accepted a payment for a murder, and you can spot this throughout the movie if you're, if you pay attention. You realize that none of their actions really make sense. I would say that this movie is better at storytelling than the first one, because this movie actually has, some stakes in reality. Like, this wouldn't happen in reality, but it feels like it could happen. So so from a horror perspective with technology, it kind of works a little bit better to have a dark web conspiracy against you rather than a Skype ghost, I think. Yeah. Anyway, in my conclusion to this video, I'm gonna say that it has annoyed me a little bit watching these movies, because I kind of like it, but it's really not there. It's so close. It's so close, and my ending argument on this is basically, don't let boomers write about computers. Just don't do it, because these movies are a mix of boomerism, found footage, tropes, and a little bit of new things coming in, but not enough new things. However, I recommend you to watch all the movies, too, so not all, whatever. And follow me on all the social media accounts.